familiar with our next guest. I am a fan of the Jim Rome Show.
Oh, right on.
And
man.
so I know the Sklar brothers very well.
We're guest hosting next Tuesday.
See, there you go. You guys are always filling in for Jim Rome. So you know, I've heard you guys on that show several times, and I've seen different appearances from you guys on different stuff. And so I'm very excited to have you guys in here. Welcome.
It's so great to be in San Diego. It's our first time ever doing comedy.
Golf clap. We got a golf
clap.
Not
bad,
it's
not
like
bad,
we just sunk a 13-foot
You
putt.
totally did. You totally did.
We don't, and we live in LA. We don't make it down to San Diego
Why
that
is
much.
that?
I don't know. We've only been in San Diego for one day, and we've both already been sexually harassed by your mayor.
Nice.
Congratulations. Welcome.
And we've both been choked by Sean Merriman.
Okay, well then.
I feel like everybody says go to SeaWorld in the zoo. You got to get sexually harassed by your mayor and then get choked by Sean Merriman. That's
really?
the double dip.
That's it.
That's the bifecta.
Yes, you need one more like weird scandal thing, and you'll hit the trifecta.
Oh, so good.
Something in Tijuana.
Yeah, the Sklar brothers are performing this weekend at the American Comedy Company, which is one of my favorite places in
Dude, we
San
had a
Diego.
show there last night.
Isn't it gorgeous?
It's great.
Yeah.
Standing room last night. I mean, so I'm going to say this to anybody who wants to come out. I would get your tickets now. But
yeah.
Standing room last night. It was so fun. It's like so tight. It's downstairs.
Low ceilings. It's like they built a comedy club the way if comedians were like, will you please do this and then do this and then do this, and they did it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, most of us have never been to New York comedy clubs, but we're thinking that's kind of what it's like.
Not even. I think
it's
better.
Whoa.
Because
New York comedy clubs tend to do like the Comedy Cellar. If you watch the Louis show,
that's a great club.
Okay.
It's a great club, low ceiling,
but actually not a great club for us because
it's very wide. It's not very deep. It's about 15 feet deep and about, I don't know, 7
So you
feet.
like them deep and
we like
not
them in
wide.
front of you.
Oh, okay.
We like most women, deep and
not wide.
Wait a minute, no. But I mean, from a logistical standpoint, if you're looking at the two of us on stage, if it goes out wide, there are people on each side that can't see who's talking and what the. So this is just set up perfectly for us, and we had a great show.
Now, you know what's very interesting about you guys is, you know, you guys are identical twins.
Yes.
And you know, you're doing this stand-up show. Which, how does that work? How do you guys play off each other? Like, what's the deal?
You know, we write a lot of our stuff as we sort of improvise it, and then it becomes written, and so
we find out kind of what our roles are. So we don't make it about being twins. It really isn't about being twins.
Right.
However,
the subject matter.
Subject matter isn't, but the way we sort of handle it or play it off, then it becomes like that. We sort of figure out our roles, and we do things that one stand-up couldn't do.
Yeah.
So we'll break into a scene or something. I mean, we were just, you know, we have kids, and we were just taking them down to Disneyland, which has changed so much since we were kids. I mean, we lived in St. Louis and then came out to Disneyland.
I remember, like, when we were kids, like, it was really hard to find the characters in the park.
Like, you'd have to, like, is that
search
Goofy's head over the hill over there?
And then you go over the hill and you're like, oh, is he smoking? He's just on break.
I could see his crappy Swatch watch. But then you get in, you smell his head. And
now they're everywhere. Like,
well, they're everywhere, and there's, like, someone who works for the park in front of them, and there's, like, a line that forms, and you go and take a picture of that. And the craziest thing that's insane is that now you couldn't talk to the characters before. They just kind of made weird motions. And
they were not allowed to talk.
Right.
So. Now they have the Cars from the movie Cars, which I have a son who's 4, and that's like he's obsessed with that. Yeah. And so they have the Cars, and they have pre-recorded messages. There where the car you can have a conversation with the Cars.
Right.
This is the most insane thing
Isn't
ever.
it?
For my son who was 4, we saw like Lightning McQueen drive up, and we were like, oh my god, we got to talk to Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
Lightning McQueen played by Owen Wilson, and I will say that the scene that played out between my son and Lightning McQueen was the best acting work Owen Wilson has done since the suicide attempt.
Wow,
I'm talking about career suicide. I'm talking about Shanghai Days.
Oh, okay, that's bad.
I'm not a bad guy.
No, we're not talking about that.
I'm talking about the real suicide.
Okay, good.
That would be ridiculous.
So here's what happens. So my son walks up, and
Lightning McQueen is like, who's my little racer?
And my son turns to me with like the WTF look.
Yeah.
Like,
you see, talking to
if
me?
he could say WTF, he would have looked in my face, and I was like, yes, answer this car. Answer the car.
Who's my little racer?
And my son's like, Liev.
Awesome. How old are you? 4. Ka-chow. What's going on?
I'm at Disneyland.
Awesome.
That was the greatest conversation.
Oh my god.
Ever. Like, that was probably the longest conversation.
Yeah, I haven't had that long conversation with my son. So I go to take my son and scoop him up and walk away. And for some reason, I don't know why I thought this. I was like, let me see who's next in line.
Bad idea.
Oh no.
Because there was no
You're
line.
ruined the.
I turn and I look, and there's a middle-aged woman, no kids. She wants to talk to the car.
Just have a conversation with the guy. By the way, if it's a middle-aged man, he's a red dot on a Google map. You have no kids.
He doesn't make it all the way into.
He doesn't make it past Main Street.
Right.
Yeah.
So this woman, like the comedian in me, like the parent in me should have scooped up my kid and walked away, but the comedian in me is like, let's see how this thing goes.
Because it's the same messages, but
From
it's
the
gonna be
car.
a very different conversation.
Sure.
So this sad woman walks up to the car, and the car's
Who's
like,
my little racer?
she's like, Barbara,
Awesome! How old are you?
49.
Good job! What's going on?
Well, I stopped cooking for myself. Just got too sad. I stacked up all the leftovers in the Tupperware.
Good job! And you know they're pre-recorded messages, but you could
feel the car wanting to say something.
like you know the car wanted to be like, all right, I gotta go fuel up back at the garage.
Maybe next time bring your niece, Barbara.
But we do that to illustrate one thing, to answer your question. So that happened to Jay.
Yeah.
It is whole is
Like as soon as it happened, as we're driving home, I call Randy. I'm like, I got the craziest thing happen.
Yeah.
We gotta like talk this out. So then we started like improvising out.
and I was like, oh, okay, I'll be the car. I mean, again, if you were describing it as one comedian would do the one thing and
and
just
then
kind of,
turn his face and do the other voice.
Yeah.
But we get to play out.
it
Scenes.
just is so fast, and it's kind of like it's like a postmodern comedy team because everybody kept wanting to push us like, okay, one of you be the smart one and one of you be the dumb one, or one of you be the straight man and one of you be the funny man, and we're like, but that's not the way we are in real life.
It's kind of been done, and we're also twins. So here's a way to sort of play like we're imperfect facsimiles of one another, which is really how we are in real life.
Right.
Some similarities, some differences. It's not polar
And maybe
opposites.
it'll be different than something that people have seen, and
Right,
it kind of
which is great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's totally awesome and something totally different, which is great. The Sklar Brothers performing this weekend, American Comedy Company, tonight 7:30, 9:30, tomorrow night 7:30, 9:30. You guys are identical twins. You talk about, you know, that you have differences. One of you guys wears glasses, one of you doesn't. And I think to myself, well, if you're identical,
I know.
It's kind of like that movie Gattaca. Like, what Jay's deteriorating at a rate that's faster than me. Like, he's going to lose a leg at some point. I mean,
how does that work?
I don't know. I just need him. I really legitimately need him. I fought it for like a really long time, and I started like I couldn't drive at night and see street signs, and I'm like, what is going on with me?
And then it's like now it's like this wonderful way that people can
easily differentiate.
But now I'm worried that what happens if my eyesight deteriorates?
You got to get contacts.
Then I'm going to have to get contacts.
Yeah.
Stick something in my
Laser
eye.
surgery.
Laser.
I own glasses.
Yeah. You're glasses guy. Sorry, you
I
can't
can't
have
do it.
dare.
That's
You cannot
fantastic.
No, if he needs to get glasses, he gets glasses.
I do.
Now, any psychic stuff? You hear that about twins and
do.
psychic stuff?
No.
Did you know when he broke his leg across the state?
No, I'll tell you what.
No.
There was when we were kids and living in St. Louis, like Washington University, phenomenal university, was doing this medical research about twins. And somebody knew us who kind of was one of the friends with the professors and said, bring these guys in. And they're like, we were like 12. They're like, these will be the go-to twins. What we'll do is we'll put Jason in one room. He'll stare at a picture. Or Randy in one room will stare at a picture. Then Jason will try and draw what he's thinking.
Awesome.
I mean, I
study.
sat in a room.
I was in a room like putting my fingers to my temples. Like,
that was
am I
gonna
supposed
do
to do
something.
this?
Yeah.
I literally was looking at this picture.
We were like Karnak. I was like, I was wild.
I was like looking at this picture, being like trying to beam it to him somehow. Not only did Jay,
What I drew was there wasn't even a shape in anything that I drew that was close to what he was watching.
what he drew was so far from what I was thinking
Nice.
that not only were we not the go-to twins, they shut down the experiment.
I think they lost funding.
They
based
lost
on
funding.
that.
Like, we're not even sure you're related.
Guys, like the one
Government
guy,
took their grant.
the professor was like, "Why am I in this business?" He like, went to go work on a potato farm.
Oh, man.
How was it growing up? What was growing up like for you guys?
We loved it because, I mean, it's so funny because we were actually comedy fans at an early age.
Oh,
like,
nice.
fans of comedy.
Yeah.
We had cable before most people, so we watched, like, Rodney Dangerfield's Young Comedian Special. This is so funny.
I used to watch that
Watch
show,
that show,
with
right?
like Jim Carrey and like
Okay,
Roseanne.
We went, so we watched the one with Seinfeld.
Yeah.
We memorized his act.
This is the best. Like, if you could have seen us in 1984, we memorized Seinfeld's
about
act.
1986.
All right, because then he did an hour special on HBO.
Yeah.
And we would walk around, because we were comedy nerds back in the day.
Yeah.
We would walk around and tell everybody, I can't believe...
How does this guy not have a show?
How does Jerry Seinfeld not have a show?
It is the biggest crime in the world that he's never going to get a show.
He's never going to get a show. Meanwhile, greatest show I've ever seen.
Seinfeld.
Right.
Ever. And to illustrate
Psychic
that,
abilities,
we were up in Wisconsin, like up in like the woods of Wisconsin. We're at this like diner.
This is
place.
last year.
Last year we went, after we were doing shows up there, our buddy took us up to his cabin. So we're like in the rural part of Wisconsin.
Okay.
We're at this like diner where everybody who's eating there is either in like military fatigues or like like the camouflage, or they just came from church.
Okay.
Maybe both.
Both. Yeah.
I don't know.
That sounds about right.
And like
There's a truck in the parking lot with its back with like a flatbed truck that's covered, and in the back it's open and it's facing the restaurant, and in it are like 7 dead deer.
Oh. 7 dead deer,
Wow.
a fox, and everything. I was like, look, I appreciate that. That's so cool. If you're going to hunt like that, that's fine. But I would maybe back that thing in. You don't have to show that to the restaurant. I'm going to see that while I'm eating my hash browns.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we get in there, and there's like all these pictures on the walls of like the local fire department and
Doing like a controlled burn on a house.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, this place, we don't normally go to places like this. And just never would go there. And as we're walking out the door, we're leaving, and next to the door, okay, in this environment was a picture of the soup Nazi from Seinfeld.
With a subtitle, "No Soup for You." We're like, Seinfeld even got in up here.
He infiltrated up there. So when we were kids in 1984, how wrong could we have been?
Yeah.
We're like, why does this guy? People don't understand Seinfeld.
And
so
you guys discovered Seinfeld,
right,
basically.
I feel like we really loved comedy in that way, and we got a lot of attention being twins. So people would be like, "Oh, you guys are twins," and then it was like, well, what do we do with it from there? Do we just stand there and smile, or do we try and make people laugh? And once we had their attention, we're like, all right, maybe we can try and do the thing that we love watching. Yeah. And slowly over time that developed.
I love it. I think it's great stuff. Now, how did you guys, being that I'm a big sports fan, and I know you guys, fill in for Jim Rome. How did you get involved in that? Like, did Jim see you guys, and you guys get involved in that, or how did that work?
It was cool how that came about. So we were doing a show on ESPN Classic called Cheap Seats.
I remember that.
Sports and comedy, like Mystery Science Theater with
great.
the old sports shows. It's like watch the old games, and it was
watch us make fun of spelling bee kids,
cheerleading competitions, dog shows. Nice. I mean, you name it.
It was a great show.
All the good stuff, because there was a point in time in ESPN's catalog when they didn't have
the big contracts,
all the contracts, and they had 24 hours to fill, so you're gonna see Super Dog Super Jocks, which is like an obstacle course that both dogs and Olympic caliber athletes would go through. It was like a 4-year-old's birthday party, only less fun. So we would do those shows, and we were doing that, and our producer of our show said, hey, my buddy's out in LA, and he's about to start doing a show for Jim Rome. He wants to meet you guys.
This is the beginning of Jim Rome is Burning,
his TV show. Yeah. So we went in and we talked to the producer friend of his, and he said...
he asked us a ton of sports questions and our attitudes about certain things that were going on in sports. We can answer all the questions. And he said, all right, well, Jim's going to have a forum, and sometimes he'll have writers and maybe some funny people and maybe TV personalities come on and just kick around the story.
Would you guys want to be a part of that? Sure.
Yeah.
We didn't hear...
We've had so many meetings like that in LA where we're like, we're going to do this show, and you guys can do this thing and this thing, and then you never hear from those people again.
Right.
Thanks, Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, thanks, Seinfeld. Right. So we were like, this will never happen. And then the guy calls us up a few months later. He's like, come to the forum. And so I
did it. I started to do it. They called me in, and it was because it's just me, and I was paired up with somebody else, and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then Travis Rogers, who used to be the producer of that show and is now doing his own radio show in Texas, he said, would you guys want... Jim's going away on vacation. Would you guys want to take a day and guest host his radio show? Now, we knew he had done a radio show. We didn't really listen to it. Yeah. I mean, we were fans of him, but we didn't really listen to the radio show. And I'm kind of glad, because I think we would have been really intimidated walking into those...
Well, it's such a fan-based show where it's got its own lingo.
Created its own universe.
It's this whole thing. It's pretty crazy.
Which is what we're all trying to do, is create our own language. I'm sure your listeners
we try to do that too. We very unsuccessfully.
Probably not.
We do it on our podcast. We have a podcast called Sklar Country, which was born out of us guest hosting Jim Rome, and we do it every week. We do two, actually. Sklar Country, which drops on Friday, and Sklar County, which drops on Tuesday.
Free on iTunes.
Wow.
But it's a fun show, but again, we try and take... And that was born out of us. We started to guest host his radio show because we did it the one time, and we did exactly what we wanted to do, which was... let's take stories in sports and try and
or
make
things that don't make
fun.
sense. Like Randy and I were just watching yesterday on a commercial for this eco. What is it called?
Endura Cool.
Oh yeah,
Cool
yes,
towel.
I've seen it.
Towel with
Yes.
D-Wade?
The towel with Dwayne Wade.
yeah.
The Dwayne Wade endorses. If
Yes.
anybody has any question as to where Dwayne Wade is in his career, he used to do T-Mobile commercials.
Now
Now
he's
he's
on the
doing
down
Endura Cool.
Ooh, ouch, ouch.
So the
That
Endura
stings.
Cool is this towel that like you have to like
They're saying how easy it is, but you've got to wet it,
run it underwater, then wring it out,
then snap it, then wrap it around, then
I'm
sweat.
surprised they're not like, here, take our Endura towel string and put it on this loom. And then work it with the loom for an hour before you then put it into the thing.
But it really was great. We're like, couldn't you like run a washcloth underwater and
Well,
stick it in
it's
the
the kind of
freezer
same
for 20 minutes?
thing.
I
Yeah,
mean, it
right.
honestly.
And if you don't know what a loom is, this towel isn't for you.
That's
Yes.
right.
So
That's right.
there you go. Hey, you gotta go see the Sklar brothers. You guys
Yes.
are great, man. You're
Thanks,
performing this weekend at American Comedy
so
Company.
rad.
Tonight, tomorrow night, 7:30 and 9:30. And I do have some tickets to give away.
Oh, yeah, let's give
If
away.
you go to the website, AmericanComedyCo.com, if you use the promo code 1053, you can win tickets.
Awesome.
So go check it out. And if not, buy tickets. These guys are great. I love you guys, man. Appreciate you guys
Thank
coming
you.
in.